I'm Carole Taylor. On this edition of Journal, a look at our food industry and how it is affected by the U.S. president's on again, off again, maybe on again tariff threats. Prime Minister Carney has said our relationship with the United States will never be the same again as a result of this major politically driven trade dispute. Canadians must now rethink our defense policies, our supply chain vulnerabilities, our jobs, and our food security. Do we even have food security if over half of our agri-food imports come from the United States? Does this need to be the case? What can we do to change that around? Can we grow or process more of our own food? Are we using our land and resources to the best advantage? Or are there innovations that we should embrace with an open mind? Dr. Lenore Newman is one of Canada's top experts on food security. Currently, she's director of the Food and Agriculture Institute at the University of the Fraser Valley, where she also holds a Canada Research Chair in Food Security. As early as 2019, Lenore was part of BC's Food Security Task Force that presented to Premier Horgan and his government their recommendations on how we could improve our situation. Did anything come of that report? Recently, she contributed to a Canada Research Council document called The Next Course, which enthusiastically makes the case for Canada to become a living lab where the world's food future is born. Dr. Lenore Newman joins us after this break to explore the opportunities Canada has to enhance our own food security. Back in a moment. Lenore, I'm so pleased to have you joining us because this is obviously a conversation on point these days in terms of food security, but you've been working in this your whole career. I was curious when I was doing the research, you know your task force where you presented all the recommendations to Premier Horgan and the government. Whatever came of that?
Oh, it's such a good question, and it's both exciting and frustrating in that really was visionary of John Horgan to put forward the idea of the task force for the three of us, myself, Peter Dillon, and Arvind Gupta, to go around the world and around the country to ask the question, how can BC punch above its weight in agricultural technology? And we did have some wins out of that, such as the creation of BC Chi, based at SFU, but involving a number of universities to assist startup companies, and that's gone fairly well. They're starting to look toward what to do next as they look toward expanding their role. We also did get regulatory amendment to allow for more vertical agriculture, and that's been a success as well, and a very timely one, with players such as Up Vertical producing lettuce at a time when the lettuce from the south is a little questionable right now.
And I understand that Quebec really embraced your recommendations.
They did. We actually, it's the old thing, you're never famous in your own hometown. Our report was loved the further you got from British Columbia. And there was mixed success, I've got to say. So definitely Alberta really embraced what we did and ran with it. And also Ontario and Quebec saw it as quite visionary and really doubled down on their agricultural innovation front, both in production and processing, distribution, whole thing. We kind of stalled a bit here. The sad reason is, of course, we lost a very popular and visionary premier, and nothing we can do about that. But the new administration has been a little slower to pick it up, but I'm still hopeful because there are a few key recommendations we need done, and they are in mandate letters. I guess we wait and see.
You know, it's funny when you talk about mandate letters because they always get one-day publicity and then you never hear about them again. I'd never see the checklist, like, yes, done, not done. I want to talk to you about all the innovation that you're working on and towards. But before we do that, what about with what we've got? So we've got I'm going to give you some pain here, but the ALR. Our agricultural land reserve started in 1973, an innovative idea, I think. Is it working?
The agricultural land reserve is a great success that's lost its way a little bit. And I say that with great sadness and pain on behalf of the industry that I work with. So definitely visionary, absolutely essential in preserving agriculture and growing the industry in BC, and some very noticeable success. But I will say, when it was set up by Dave Barrett, it was established as an agricultural industrial zone. So it was meant to support an industry, not a lifestyle, not a landscape. It was meant to create food. And it was farm to table. So processing was explicitly, for example, included in the ALR because the ALR is huge. And people always say, oh, how small it is, but it's 1/3 of the privately held land in British Columbia. It is a massive piece of land. It is half the land in the lower mainland that's buildable is in the ALR. So if you invest that much money in one investment, you better hope that it pays off. And what we've seen success. And the wine industry is on my mind. I just came back from the Okanagan and they've had their struggles, but we have an amazing wine industry in part because there's been some really forward policy moves to keep the ALR current to serve that industry. But what we're seeing increasingly, especially around Vancouver and Vancouver Island, is it's being used as a green belt by the municipalities to a degree. And I get it. It's a convenient tool at the provincial level to hold development back. That's always what it was intended for. But we're seeing incredible pressure being put on farmers who just want to farm on farmland, and they're being told no. They're being...
Wait a minute, wait, that doesn't make any sense. Isn't that what they're supposed to do?
Well, one would think, but we're increasingly seeing a pressure to preserve a certain landscape, a sort of bucolic green belt landscape. And I think philosophically, the fight we're in, is this a green belt or is it an agricultural zone? Because they look different, especially as technology changes for agriculture. And increasingly, we see a lot of forces that they're kind of like NIMBYs, but I like to call them nifties, not in my farmyard. Well, something along that line. And when I look at what they're doing, they want to see a certain type of farming, like red barn, 3 chickens, little farm stand. And I mean, I love that too. Agritourism is important, don't get me wrong, but we also need production agriculture at scale. And yeah, it's dirty. It's industrial. And processing, I think, has become a flashpoint because BC is in a processing crisis. And we know that. The government has made it clear in several mandate letters for the Minister of Agriculture. This is a top priority. It needs to be addressed. And yet we haven't seen action. And I'm still hopeful because I'm an eternal optimist, but I'm getting a little nervous because we need that processing more than ever.
So explain where processing fits into agriculture. First of all, you're saying it was in the original mandate for the reserve. Did one of the governments take it out?
Yes. Accidentally, processing was damaged in BC. And it's one of these good intentions gone wrong kind of exercises. So originally, we had a pretty vibrant processing industry. And everyone's like, well, Lenore, why do you need that? Well, you need it because if you grow food, you have to be able to sell it into the system. And most of the food we produce, like potatoes, people don't want potatoes. They want finished product like French fries. And people don't want green beans, they want frozen green beans, and they want jam, and they want samosas, and they want food products. We did pretty well. We had a pretty vibrant little processing industry chugging along. And then the early 2000s, in a review of the ALC Act, which governs this land base, the Campbell government accidentally broke processing. It's the only way to describe it. And it was a good intention. They put in something called the 50-50 regulation, which said, sure, you can process on ALR, but you have to produce 50% of the food on site. And That's a terrible regulation. Nothing like it anywhere else on Earth. I sometimes wonder if it was a typo, because if they'd said 50% of the food from British Columbia, I'd almost understand it. But even that would be hard because we have winter. And so we're seasonally limited, but on site makes no sense at all. Because what if you're making strawberry rhubarb jam, but you only grow strawberries? You can't, because you may not meet that 50% threshold. Now, the ALC will fight me tooth and nail on this, and they will say it's fine, we write letters of exception, and they do, but I don't like policy that is one person writing things on a napkin. That doesn't work for me, and it's so easy to fix. And to me, I mean, to be honest, you could scrap that 50-50 rule and nothing terrible would happen, for sure. Guaranteed.
So what happens is that a farmer, a grower, they take, whether it's blueberries, cranberries, whatever, they send it down to the States to be processed, then it comes back to Canada?
Yes, and that's obviously a terrible problem. Or to Alberta, which isn't quite as dire these days, but still a problem. The problem we ran into is as the processors on the ALR reached the end of their plant life, because they were grandfathered, but they couldn't build a new one, they just left. So we lost potato processing largely, and our potato harvest is down 70% since that rule. We lost green beans entirely. We lost green peas pretty well entirely. We lost our strawberry industry. And I talked to...
I'm going to interrupt this list because it's going to be a long list.
And it's starting to get scary. Everyone's getting like, oh no, the strawberries, bring them back.
Where's my food? We're going to take a break and continue this discussion. Lenore Newman's been looking at the question of food security for a long time, and frustrating for you. I mean, I can sense your frustration when you know some things that could be done, low-hanging fruit that we could just immediately improve our food security, and it's not happening.
It's definitely frustrating, and I understand the nuance. I understand a lot of people make the counter argument, well, processing as a use could be done on industrial land. But as most of us know, we have an incredible shortage of industrial land in British Columbia. It's very expensive. It's very limited. Ironically, because we never created an industrial land reserve, which was proposed at the same time as the ALR. And so without industrial land to move food processing onto, food processors are just leaving. They're going to Alberta. Or we're stuck having to try and send food south and bring it back, which of course doesn't work anymore. And I think this is probably the easiest thing we could do to improve food security and protect ourselves nationally on a BC front. Processing is number one. And all we have to do is erase that one reg, or if we really wanted to be Canada first, we could even change that 50-50 rule and say, well, 50% has to come from Canada. Then you've solved the problem.
Well, and actually that might get some support from Ottawa these days, because the Canada First idea. And
well, and what's even more frustrating is Ottawa has made it clear that food processing is a priority, and they're putting money behind it. BC, by not making this change that, by the way, they have promised they're going to make, and it's in the mandate letter, they're literally walking away from free money in Ottawa. And I know they have a lot of priorities. I get it. I don't pretend to understand the intricacies of actually getting things done in government because I'm an academic at heart. But this one's pretty easy. It doesn't even need legislation. So I sure hope they do it.
there are other areas that are certainly more esoteric that you're involved in terms of where we can go in the future with food. And I have to tell you, I'm not completely sure when everyone throws around the agritech. We're going to do agritech. What exactly is agritech?
Well, it's a great question. And I think people think, I don't know, they always think like robots and, like flashing lights and such. But the reality is agritech is simply technology that allows us to produce agricultural product more sustainably, more efficiently, more profitably. And often I think of it as it's technology geared to improve the triple bottom line. So, economic and environmental and social for food. And we've been doing it for 10,000 years. So, I mean, a rake is agritech, or, a seed drill, or, chemical fertilizer, which revolutionized our world, or all these technologies, right up to genomics, mechatronics, automation of harvesting, which is one that's getting a lot of attention right now. And sensor technology is one of the biggest. So a big player here is Semios, which does sensor technology, which allows farmers to do things like save water, because they only water where it's needed, or save inputs such as fertilizer, because they only fertilize where it's needed. What we're really seeing too, though, there's a bit of an urgency in that we've been using technology to increase agricultural production for thousands of years. But right now, because of global instability in the weather, we're having to move a little faster than usual. So it's one of the ways we can adapt to extreme weather is better sensing, better technology, protecting crops, even if they're outside, with technology that shades them or provides a bit of heat, whatever you need. So yeah, it's working with technology to produce even more food on less land and better quality.
So is Canada a superstar in this world of research and innovation?
Oh, we are a superstar waiting to happen. And that is my goal in this is we really do punch above our weight in terms of discovery research, which that first piece. So we put a lot of effort into creating new knowledge. A country like the Netherlands really punches above its weight in the innovation cycle. So the next piece where you take research and you apply it to a problem. And then that leads on to entrepreneurship. So think about Silicon Valley, which people always forget is an agricultural superpower because it was originally a farming region. And so that entrepreneurship is taking innovation and scaling it in a way that's profitable. So you have these three elements. Canada's really great at the first one. We're not terrible at the third one. We're missing that innovation piece. And that's where we don't publish, sort of punch above our weight. And that's where a lot of my effort right now is focused on the national scale, working in partnership with the University of Guelph to try and put together a national network for agricultural innovation.
So what's going to have to be there and what's going to have to change for this to be successful?
Well, it's one of those wonderful challenges where sometimes the problem isn't what you think it is, because we knew we had lots of great tech that was coming out of universities. And we've realized the problem was the entrepreneurs, or proto-entrepreneurs, as it were, trying to take this tech forward, were really struggling with that transition from benchtop science to entrepreneurship. And it can be simple things like how to pitch an idea to a non-scientific crowd, for example. That's a skill that you have to train, and discovery research universities don't do that. And teach them how to scale a business, how to manage a budget, how to not overspend and fall on your face, how to not overpromise, how to get to that stage where your idea is ready for the market. Also, how to understand what the customer wants is critical. And sometimes I like to call them ideas looking for a problem, where the science came first, as it always does. And they're like, okay, here's a cool idea. How can I force that into the market? And it really should work the other way. It's about teaching people to look for needs in the market. So a great example right now is we could be doing really innovative things with in-ground carbon capture that actually rewarded farmers financially just for doing what they do a little better. But we need sensor technology for that. We need to know how much carbon is coming out of the air into the ground. And it's that kind of, we know that's a need, so we need this part over here to produce that and then take it along. So it's, what I love about it is science is cool, but it's adding in that policy and even that people part that makes a superpower.
It sounds like a natural fit for your university environment.
Well, we like to say we do university a little differently at University of the Fraser Valley. We're very forward-looking, and we're by mandate in our legislation dedicated to serving our region, and that means serving the agricultural industry. And so we very early in a project go out and ask, do you need this? What do you need? You know, and then we have a lot of really amazing students we can put on a problem and solve those problems for local growers and local producers.
And in the future, you're going to come back and talk to me sometime about what cellular agriculture actually is.
Oh, yes.
This is making meat from little cells in a test tube?
Oh, yes. And weirdly, that is one area Canada is emerging as a leader in alternative protein production. And that's kind of neat because there's all these competing technologies. So here right in Vancouver, we have Maya Farms. They're doing really advanced fungal production of protein. So think mushrooms. We have dairy, we have...
So please come back and talk more about it.
I would love to, and that one changes so fast, it'll be different by the time I get back.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I'll be right back. In Canada, some innovative research in agrifood is going on. Vertical farming, cellular agriculture, the role of robots and even AI. But will it be enough to future-proof us from the challenges of climate change and political disruption? We'll see. But as Dr. Newman says, food is many things, but it's never boring. Let me know your thoughts on YouTube. Till next time, I'm Carole Taylor.